Mussolini.
Hello there, this is Teresa Stevenson from The Economist. Is that the do chair?
Yes,
Well, thank
speaking.
you, do chair. We know that you're in Great Britain now, but I would like to pose a question regarding the United States of America.
Yes, yes, carry on.
Yes, what do you think Kamala Harris will prioritize in our approach to counter inflation in the United States of America?
All right. I gladly answer this question. Thank you.
Thank you, do chat. Thank you, do chat. Thank you, do chat. Thank you.
My dear friend, I thank you for this question. And I gladly answer this difficult question that you have posed, which regards the great Kamala Harris. And what her plan is to fight the current wave of inflation that has hit the United States of America and Europe. As you know, I am a guest of the great Winston Churchill here in Great Britain until the end of the month. But at the same time, I'm keeping an eye on what is happening on the other side of the ocean. Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me. Kamala Harris stands in golden sands and watches Joe Biden go sailing on a sinking ship, probably, but doesn't matter. The question is, what is, first of all, inflation? Let us give a definition of inflation before we speak about Kamala Harris' daring program to change America. Some people, the man on the street in particular, thinks that inflation is an excessive rise in the prices of goods and services. But what causes this rise? At times, it is the scarcity maybe of raw materials. At times, this rise may indeed be caused by a problem with supply. But I would like to invite you in particular to look at inflation from another point of view. That is to say, to consider inflation the loss of value of a currency. Whereas the amount of goods and services are the same, but what is excessive is the amount of money printed. In this case, the US dollar. Why am I saying this? Because we found ourselves in three crises. The war in Ukraine, which certainly created a situation of scarcity of raw materials at the beginning, in particular oil and gas. But, however, there are two other conditions that devalued the value of the American dollars, and I'm thinking in particular about the COVID crisis and the excessive spending of the US government, which now has a public debt of $35 trillion. Let me remind you that in 2019, this debt was of $19 trillion. That is to say, this debt has almost doubled in the span of only 5 years. And this situation is, of course, unsustainable. But on top of that, just this year, Saudi Arabia did not renew the 50-year-long agreement that he had with the United States of America, whereas every barrel of oil sold would have been denominated in US dollars. And therefore, there is a push, especially driven by the so-called BRICS, Brazil, India, China, Russia. Bad people. Bad. To replace the American dollar with a basket of currencies pegged to raw materials. But let me go back to the fact that a currency may be worth less. And I give you 3 historical examples where this happened and caused inflation and even hyperinflation. The first example that comes to my mind is the issuing of the so-called assignats in French, that is to say, notes of credit, issued during the French Revolution by the Revolutionary Assembly from, if I'm not mistaken, 1789 to 1796, but I may be mistaken. These notes of credit, which became then legal tender, were issued to an excessive amount, causing the rise of the price of goods in France and creating the political conditions that enabled Napoleon Bonaparte to come to power. The second example has to do with Germany and the Republic of Weimar. I'm sorry, I'm remembering with a bit of nostalgia because that was the time that my friend Adolf came to power. And hyperinflation caused by the excessive requests of the Treaty of Versailles and the loss of value of the German Deutschmark caused a flood of hyperinflation in Germany, and I still conserve in my desk a banknote worth 5 billion Deutschmark. And I invite you to read, with regards to what happened in the Weimar Republic, the famous book, The Magic of Money, written by my dear friend Schacht, the then director of the German Central Bank. In any case, that excess of inflation created a political turmoil and enabled my friend Adolf to gain power. Poi però ha aggiustato tutto Adolf, but that's another story. And the third example has to do with the United States of America. As you can see, I'm taking you from Europe to the United States of America to the year 1971, and if not mistaken, it was the month of August, when the excessive spending of the US government caused by the war in Vietnam forced the then President Richard Nixon to abandon the gold standard. That is to say, the US dollar was pegged until that time to gold, creating a currency that was strong and powerful. At the time, $35 could buy an ounce of gold. But a few months before, my friend Charles de Gaulle... Oh, just a second. Winston? Winston?
Yes, Benito?
Allora, Winston,
Yes.
Charles, l'abbiamo invitato stasera?
Yes.
Perfetto. Is he coming for dinner?
Yes, he's coming
Molto
for
bene.
dinner, don't worry.
No, just because I'm talking about him and maybe...
I prepare some champagne
Alright.
as well, no worries.
Fantastico. Chiudi la porta.
All right, bye.
Sorry, I'm just mentioning Char. Good friend. Vabbè, non importa. Anyway, I was saying, Charles de Gaulle, a few months before, asked the US Central Bank to deliver the equivalent of gold of all the dollars held by the French National Bank as its reserves. This daring move forced the then President Richard Nixon to declare the abandoning of the gold standard by the US government and created a wave of inflation and economic depression known as stagnation. But today, although we seem to live in a similar situation where we have replaced the war in Vietnam with the war in Ukraine, and although we have an incredible public debt of $35 trillion of the US government, today we have a ray of light, a ray of hope. Kamala Harris, who has decided to counter this problem with a decisive hand. And I'm holding right here a political program of 2,000 pages. No, 2,000 is too much. No, sorry. 1,650 pages, written by her in only 2 hours with the help of ChatGPT. And at point number 3, I see here, there is inflation. So what does Kamala Harris want to do to counter the inflation wave in the United States of America? Well, it's very easy. I'm reading here. So, Kamala Harris, in order to counter Sorry. I've been talking too much. I got a dry mouth. Yes, sorry. So I'm reading. Kamala Harris, in order to Sorry. Oh, yes. Yes. So I was saying, Kamala Harris, in order to counter... Sorry. Oh, God. Oh. So I was like, Kamala Harris, no...
Yes, Benito. Why are you laughing?